The will that changed everything. Emily endured 6 years of abuse from her mother-in-law. Margaret called her a gold digger, excluded her from family photos, humiliated her publicly. Her husband never defended her. When Margaret died, the whole family gathered for the will reading. Everyone thought the money would go to her son, but when the lawyer played the video will, Margaret said from the screen, "I'm leaving everything, $8 million, to my daughter-in-law, Emily." What Margaret said next about her son destroyed his life. Calm voice. Hey everyone, this shocking story comes from the internet. Names have been changed for privacy, but what this mother-in-law did from beyond the grave will make you question everything you thought you knew about toxic family relationships. This is a story about endurance, unexpected justice, and revenge from the afterlife. Let's dive in. Emily Harrison met Brian Thornton in 2017 at a charity fundraiser in Boston. He was charming, successful, kind, a senior marketing director at a tech company. They fell in love quickly. 6 months into dating, Brian took Emily to meet his mother, Margaret Thornton. Margaret was a formidable woman. At 62, she was a wealthy widow who'd built a chain of upscale boutiques across New England after her husband died. She was worth approximately $8 million. She lived in a mansion in Newton, drove a Mercedes, and had very specific ideas about who was worthy of her only son. Emily was not that person. From the moment they met, Margaret's eyes scanned Emily with cold calculation. "So, Emily," Margaret said over tea in her perfectly decorated living room, "Brian tells me you're a teacher?" "Yes, I teach 2nd grade at public school." Margaret's tone made it sound like a disease. "Yes, ma'am. How quaint. And your family? What does your father do?" "He's a mechanic. My mom's a nurse." Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I see. Blue collar. Well, everyone has their place in society, I suppose." Emily felt her cheeks burn, but she stayed polite. After dinner, as they were leaving, Emily overheard Margaret talking to Brian in the hallway. "She's not right for you, Brian. She's from a poor family. She has no refinement, no connections, no wealth. You can do so much better." "Mom, I love her," Brian said. "Love," Margaret scoffed. "Love fades. Money and breeding don't. Mark my words. She's a gold digger who sees dollar signs when she looks at you." Emily's heart sank, but she loved Brian, and Brian loved her. So when he proposed in December 2017, she said yes. Margaret did not attend their engagement party. They got married in June 2018 in a beautiful but modest ceremony. Emily's parents saved for months to help pay for it. Margaret attended, but she made her displeasure clear. She wore black to a summer wedding. She sat in the front row with her arms crossed during the ceremony. She didn't smile in a single photo. At the reception, when it was time for the mother-son dance, Margaret pulled Brian aside and said loudly enough for people to hear, "I hope you got a good prenup. You'll need it when this doesn't work out." Emily pretended not to hear. After the wedding, the real torture began. Margaret excluded Emily from everything. Family Christmas card photo? "Just Brian, please." "Emily, you can step aside." Family dinners? Emily wasn't invited. Only Brian. Birthday gifts? Margaret would send Brian expensive presents and send Emily nothing, not even a card. When Emily tried to build a relationship, Margaret would shut her down. "Margaret, I made your favorite pie. I'm sure it's not as good as the bakery I use, but thank you. I thought we could go shopping together. I prefer to shop alone. I have very particular taste." At family gatherings, Margaret would introduce Brian's cousins' wives warmly, then get to Emily. "And this is Emily, Brian's wife," said with the enthusiasm of announcing a parking ticket. Brian's response, "That's just how she is. Don't take it personally." But Emily took it personally, because it was personal. Over the next 6 years, Margaret's cruelty became a constant background noise in Emily's life. 2019, Emily got a promotion at her school, became head of the elementary department. She excitedly told Brian's family at Sunday dinner. Margaret's response, "How nice, though I suppose in public school, the bar isn't very high." 2020, during COVID lockdown, Emily called Margaret weekly to check on her. Grocery shopped for her since she was high risk. Margaret never said thank you. When Brian mentioned Emily's help, Margaret said, "I would have been fine without her. I have money to hire people." 2021, Emily suffered a miscarriage at 10 weeks. She was devastated. Margaret's reaction when Brian told her, "Well, perhaps it's for the best. You two should be more financially stable before having children. A teacher's salary isn't much. 2022. Emily got pregnant again. Successfully this time. She and Brian were thrilled. They had a baby girl, Grace, in November 2022. At the hospital, Margaret came to visit. She looked at her granddaughter through the nursery window and said to the nurse, "Shame about the genes. Hopefully she'll inherit the Thornton intelligence and not the, well, never mind." Emily, exhausted from labor, heard this through the door. She cried silently. 2023. Grace's first birthday party. Emily spent weeks planning. Margaret showed up for 15 minutes, didn't bring a gift, and left saying, "I have a spa appointment." Children's parties are so tiresome. Through all of this, Brian would say, "Mom's just set in her ways. She'll warm up eventually. Just be patient." Emily was patient. She was kind. She never fought back. She endured because she loved Brian. And she believed marriage meant accepting your spouse's family, flaws and all. What Emily didn't know was that Margaret was watching her very carefully. In July 2024, Margaret invited Brian and Emily to Sunday brunch at her mansion. The whole extended family was there. Brian's cousins, their spouses, their children. Margaret stood up to make a toast. "I want to thank you all for coming. Family is everything. The Thornton name means something. Legacy, strength, breeding." She looked directly at Emily. "Some people marry into families for love. Others, for opportunity. I've spent years watching, evaluating, and I can say with certainty that I know exactly who everyone at this table is." Emily felt sick. She knew what was coming. Margaret continued, "I've updated my will recently. My lawyer has it all documented. When I pass, which hopefully won't be for many years, my estate will go to those who truly deserve it, those who carry the Thornton values." She raised her glass. "To family, real family." Everyone drank. Emily couldn't even lift her glass. On the drive home, Emily finally broke. "Brian, I can't do this anymore. Your mother hates me. She's never going to accept me. And you never defend me. Never. Not once in 6 years. Emily, she's just an old woman set in her ways. She called me a gold digger at our engagement. She said our daughter has bad genes. She just publicly implied I'm not real family. She didn't say your name. She didn't have to." Emily was crying now. "Brian, I need you to stand up for me. Just once. Please." Brian was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "She's my mother, Emily. She's all I have left of my father. I can't just cut her off." "I'm not asking you to cut her off. I'm asking you to defend your wife. I'll talk to her," Brian said weakly. But Emily knew he wouldn't. She drove home in silence, wondering how much longer she could endure this life. 3 weeks later, Margaret Thornton suffered a massive heart attack and died at age 68. Margaret's funeral was held at the most prestigious funeral home in Boston. Over 200 people attended. Business associates, society friends, family members. Emily went to support Brian, who was devastated. Despite everything, he'd loved his mother deeply. At the funeral, people shared memories. Margaret the businesswoman, Margaret the philanthropist, Margaret the devoted mother. No one mentioned Margaret the cruel mother-in-law. After the service, Margaret's lawyer, Thomas Whitmore, approached the family. "The family will need to gather tomorrow at 2 p.m. at my office for the reading of Margaret's will. She left specific instructions that certain parties must be present." Brian nodded. "Of course. It'll be me, my cousins, and Emily," Thomas said, looking at her. Margaret specifically requested that Emily be present. Emily was shocked. "Me? Why?" Those were her instructions. "I'll see you all tomorrow." That night, Brian was confused. "Why would she want you there? She never even liked you. Maybe she left me something small," Emily said, though she doubted it. "A bracelet or something. A final insult." "Maybe," Brian said. But something in Thomas's expression had been strange, almost anticipatory. The next day, the entire Thornton family gathered in Thomas Whitmore's conference room. Brian, his 3 cousins, David, Richard, and Susan, their spouses, and Emily. Everyone was whispering about what Margaret might have left whom. "I bet Brian gets the house," David murmured. "And the business," Richard added. He was her only child. Emily sat quietly in the corner, feeling out of place as always. Thomas entered with a laptop and a large envelope. "Thank you all for coming. Margaret Thornton left very specific instructions for how her will should be read. She recorded a video message that must be played for all of you before I distribute any documents." He opened the laptop and pressed play. Margaret's face filled the screen. She was sitting in her study, dressed impeccably as always, very much alive. "Hello, family," Margaret's voice came through the speakers. "If you're watching this, I've passed on. I hope the funeral was tasteful. Knowing you all, it probably was." A few people chuckled nervously. "I'm going to get straight to the point. My estate, which includes my home, valued at $2.3 million, my business worth approximately $4.2 million, and my investment portfolio of $1.5 million, totaling roughly $8 million, needs to be distributed." Everyone leaned forward. "I have thought very carefully about who deserves this wealth, who has earned it, who embodies the values I hold dear." Brian smiled slightly. "This was it. And I have made my decision." Margaret continued. "I am leaving my entire estate, all $8 million, the house, the business, everything, to my daughter-in-law, Emily Harrison Thornton." The room exploded. "What?" Brian stood up, his chair flying backward. "That's impossible!" David shouted. Emily sat frozen, her mouth open, unable to process what she'd just heard. On screen, Margaret continued, ignoring the chaos she knew she'd create. "Emily, I know this comes as a shock to you. You're probably wondering why the woman who treated you terribly for 6 years would leave you everything." Emily's eyes filled with tears as she watched the screen. "The truth is, I was testing you," Margaret said. "From the moment I met you, I saw something in you that I needed to verify. I saw strength, resilience, dignity, but I needed to know if it was real. So I tested you. I insulted you. I excluded you. I criticized everything you did. For 6 years, I gave you every reason to leave my son, to fight back, to show your true colors, and you never did." Margaret's expression softened, something Emily had never seen in life. "You endured every insult with grace. You kept trying to build a relationship with me, even when I rejected you. You were kind to me during COVID, when you had every reason not to be. You gave me a beautiful granddaughter. And most importantly, you loved my son unconditionally. You didn't marry Brian for money. If you had, you would have left when you realized I would never give you any. You married him for love. Real love." Brian sat back down heavily, his face pale. "Now, to my son." Margaret's tone changed, became sharp. "Brian, you are not getting a single dollar of my estate." Brian's head snapped up. "Do you want to know why? Because you failed the test that Emily passed. For 6 years, I watched you let your wife be humiliated. I waited for you to stand up to me, to defend her, to be a man, and you never did. You chose your mother's approval over your wife's dignity. You were weak. You were a coward. You let the woman you claim to love suffer because you were too afraid to confront me. A real man protects his wife. A real man chooses his partner over everyone else, even his own mother. You are not that man, Brian. And you don't deserve a fortune built on strength when you've shown nothing but weakness." The room was dead silent, except for the sound of Brian's ragged breathing. "Emily," Margaret said, her eyes seeming to look directly at her through the screen, "you have earned every penny of this estate. Use it well. Take care of my granddaughter. And please, teach her to never accept less than she deserves. Something I hope you'll finally learn yourself. As for the rest of you," Margaret addressed the cousins, "you get nothing because you stood by and watched Emily be mistreated and said nothing. Complicity is just as bad as cruelty. This is my final will and testament. Thomas has all the legal documents. It's ironclad. Don't bother contesting it." Margaret smiled, a real smile. "Goodbye, family. Emily, good luck. You're going to need it dealing with these people." The screen went black. The conference room erupted in chaos. Brian turned to Emily, his face red with rage and humiliation. "You knew about this. You planned this with her." "I had no idea," Emily said, still in shock. "I thought she hated me." "She did hate you. This doesn't make any sense." "It makes perfect sense," Thomas said calmly, opening the envelope. Margaret Thornton was many things, but she was always strategic. She tested Emily's character, and Emily passed. "Brian, you failed. The will is legally binding and was witnessed by 3 attorneys. Here are the documents." He slid papers across the table to Emily. David stood up. "We're contesting this. It's insane." She was clearly not in her right mind. She had full psychiatric evaluation done 2 weeks before her death, Thomas interrupted. "Completely sound mind. Dr. Patterson's report is attached. You can contest if you want, but you'll lose and waste money on legal fees." Richard pointed at Emily. "You manipulated an old woman." "I did nothing!" Emily shouted, finding her voice. "I endured 6 years of abuse from her. She made my life hell. If this was all a test, I didn't know about it. Brian should get something. Susan insisted. He's her son. Margaret left Brian a personal letter, Thomas said, handing Brian a sealed envelope. That's all. Brian tore it open with shaking hands. Inside was a single sentence in Margaret's handwriting. Be a better husband to Emily than you were a son to me. You still have a chance to earn back what you lost. Mother. Brian crumpled the letter in his fist. Over the next few weeks, Brian tried to fight the will. He hired lawyers. They all told him the same thing. It was airtight. His cousins stopped speaking to him, blaming him for losing their potential inheritance. Brian fell into a deep depression. He'd lost his mother, his inheritance, and his family's respect in one day. Emily, meanwhile, was processing everything with the help of a therapist. I don't even know how to feel, she told Dr. Sanders. Part of me is grateful. Part of me is angry that it had to be this way. Part of me wishes she'd just been kind instead of testing me. How do you feel about Brian? Dr. Sanders asked. Emily was quiet for a long time. I'm angry at him too. Margaret was right. He never defended me, not once. 3 months after Margaret's death, Emily made a decision. She sat Brian down in their living room. I'm filing for divorce, she said calmly. Brian looked up, hollow-eyed. What? Margaret's will showed me something I'd been ignoring for years. You don't respect me. You never stood up for me. You let your mother abuse me because it was easier than confronting her. Emily, I'm sorry. I know I failed you. You did, and I forgive you for that. But I can't stay married to someone who won't protect me. Grace deserves to see her mother in a relationship built on respect. This isn't it. Is this about the money? Brian asked bitterly. Now that you're rich, you don't need me? This has nothing to do with money, Emily said. I would have stayed with you if you defended me even once, but you didn't. Margaret left me her fortune because she knew I stayed for love, but she also showed me that love isn't enough when there's no respect. I'll change, Brian pleaded. You should, Emily said. But you should change for you, not for me. We're done, Brian. The divorce was finalized in early 2025. Emily got full custody of Grace. Brian got visitation rights and paid child support. Though it was minimal compared to Emily's new wealth, Emily used Margaret's money wisely. She set up college funds for Grace. She donated $500,000 to education charities. She kept the boutique business running, honoring Margaret's legacy. And she started going to therapy to rebuild the self-worth that had been chipped away over 6 years. One night, while putting Grace to bed, Emily looked at her daughter and whispered, Your grandmother was a complicated woman. She was cruel, but she taught me something important. Never accept less than you deserve. And always, always stand up for the people you love. Grace yawned sleepily. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, sweetheart. As Emily walked out of Grace's room, she passed a framed photo of Margaret, the one memento she'd kept. Thank you, Emily whispered to the photograph, for the test and for showing me what I'm worth. Margaret's stern face stared back at her, silent but somehow satisfied. Emily had passed the test, and in the end, she'd won more than money. She'd won her freedom. Comments section. Wow, that was intense! Let's see what you think about this ultimate mother-in-law plot twist. Here are the top 5 comments. Comment number 5. As a therapist, I have mixed feelings. Yes, Emily showed incredible strength, but Margaret could have just talked to her son instead of torturing Emily for 6 years. That said, the fact that Margaret recognized Emily's worth and punished Brian's weakness, brutal but effective. Comment number 4. From a legal standpoint, this will is genius. Margaret had psychiatric evaluations, multiple witnesses, video testimony explaining her reasoning. She made it impossible to contest. And the message to Brian? Chef's kiss. You can't buy a better revenge from beyond the grave. Comment number 3. Brian is the worst. His wife endured 6 years of abuse, and he never defended her? That's just how she is not an excuse. Your wife comes first. Margaret was right to leave him nothing. He didn't deserve Emily or the money. I hope he's miserable. Comment number 2. As someone with a difficult mother-in-law, this hit hard. The exclusion from family photos, the insults disguised as advice, the husband who says, don't take it personally. I lived this. Emily's strength is incredible. But can we talk about how she divorced him after? That's the power move. Comment number 1. Margaret planned a 6-year test from beyond the grave. She tortured Emily to see if she was a gold digger. And when Emily passed, she left her $8 million and publicly called Brian a coward. The fact that Brian got a 1-sentence letter telling him he's a failure while Emily got the entire estate? This is the most epic mother-in-law revenge I've ever heard. Margaret was brutal, but she wasn't wrong. So what do you think? Was Margaret a genius or a monster? Should she have just talked to Brian instead of testing Emily for 6 years? And would you have stayed with Brian after getting the inheritance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The most interesting takes will be featured in our next video. If this story blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe to Hidden Face Stories. We bring you the most shocking family drama every single day. See you in the next one.